morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. Welcome to my kitchen table and an unboxing. Steve said I should call this episode iPad at the Bottom of the Stairs. What's happened after 2 years of fiddle-farting around is I have finally purchased an iPad that is brand new for one thing and has got the memory that I need for doing these videos. So I've doubled my memory, and I have no idea how any of this goes together. And Steve suggested I film part of it with the old iPad, and then, but it's like, no. So look, I have no idea what's this? Oh my gosh. It's got its own little cord thing. Like, I didn't even think about that. I guess that's what you charge it in the wall with. This is lots of plastic. I don't know why. It's like embedded in there. So I guess there's nothing more in there. Cords. This seems to be an unwrap it device. So probably this is non-recyclable, just guessing. And I chose blue. Okay, so somehow, okay, so there's the camera piece. There's the volume pieces. I think. Is that how that goes? Oh, look! Cool. And then I got this keyboard, which I'm not sure how it's going to work. I mean, oh my God, did you see that? Let me see. Probably I can't do it in slow motion. Okay, ready? Oh, it just clicks together like an alligator biting down. So, that's what it looks like. And then I also had to get, holy smokes, they don't want you. Not only do the thieves not get in, neither does the purchaser get into their boxes. Okay. So I'm not doing a product placement thing because I know shit about this. Steve walked in and he said, we need this bites and those gnaws and some chewing on this and that. So I have no idea what I actually purchased. So that goes in there, and then the mic can go in there, or headphones can go in there. And then I guess this cord goes in there. Like, I bet everybody who's watching this is going, what a moron, she should know this by now. But I don't. And there we go. So the next video, if all goes well, will have been filmed on this Johnny. And, I didn't show you the other cool thing I got. This summer, Steve bought this. I've been asking for, I knew that something like this existed in the world. It just looks like a makeup thing, but it actually charges batteries. So the video machine that I'm using today to make the video, it just faints. The battery always dies halfway through. So I plug this into that guy, no fainting. And when we were at the camp, it made a huge difference. So, okay, you want to be here for books? I've got books. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so that excitement is over. I don't know how long it's going to take me. I'm just going to adjust the camera just a touch. I see a glare there. Sorry. I don't know how long it's going to take me to figure out how to use that iPad. Hopefully not too long, but new things, new learning curves, and that's not my favorite thing. I like the old learning curve. So today I'm bringing to you books that do not break your heart. I have done this 3 times in the past, and usually I try and do it in February. However, February was I was really brokenhearted in February, so it didn't seem like the right time to be bringing this forward because And I thought, well, I should do it now before. I was going to wait till next February, and then I thought, well, it's always needed. Books that are not going to crush your soul. And so I can't remember actually what was the title of it. It was something like that. Books that don't crush your soul, don't break your... Anyways, this is the 4th one. Every book except one has been mentioned on this... on my channel sometime in the past. So I've just gathered the ones that are the most recent and an oldie. I'll start with the oldie that I've never talked about before. It's got this great packaging. It's all about packaging today. So it's a beautiful book, and did we get it from? We got it from the Folio Society, which they've always got beautifully made books, but quite often I find their books are heavy. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, it is a beautifully produced book, and I'm talking about Travels with a Donkey by R.L. Stevenson. Now, true confessions, I fell asleep through most of this book. We were doing it as a read aloud, and it was at a point in our lives where there were kids still at home, and I think they were teenagers and coming in really late, and Steve would read this, and I was just exhausted. So, how good is it? He really liked it. How good is it as a soporific? Pretty good. So, it's about... R.L. Stevens himself, and he is traveling with the donkey, who I believe is called Dulcinea, which is the same donkey in Don Quixote. And they are traveling in the foothills of, I think, Spain. And he just encounters different things. He's camping out in the rough under olive trees. He's meeting up with peasants, and he's just having a good old time with Dulcinea. I'm sure you can get this as a less expensive version somewhere if you go to your local bookstore and order it. Would I read it again? I probably would. Now that I'm a calmer person, I was pretty impatient person back when this was being read, so the lack of any true plot was an irritant for me, but it's definitely a traveling story. And Steve, hand me that. Steve couldn't stand that I got it wrong. This is the name of the donkey, Modestine. He couldn't stand that I got that wrong. Thank you, darling.
Such a good donkey.
She's such a good donkey. So there isn't a tremendous plot line. It's a journey. It's just a nice little travel story. Okay, the rest I have all mentioned to you at some point, and in no particular order of. I haven't ranked these in terms of. Best book to not crush your soul to least book to not crush your soul. They're all really pleasant books to read. I'm going to start with Tuck Everlasting. Now, the first time I read this, I was sorry, there's a glare. There, do we get it? Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. And the first time I read this, I was fairly young. I actually found it kind of creepy that there was this everlasting source of water, and this young girl comes upon it, and she comes upon Tuck, and they're having quite a nice time, but it takes her some while before she realizes what's happening in terms of the everlasting family has kept this source of rejuvenation quiet, but they come back every so often, and so aging for them is a choice. So the longer you don't come back to get your renewal, you will age in that period. And so you can kind of keep yourself at like if you want to stay 25 for 2 or 3 decades, you can do that. So the first time I read it, I found it a bit frightening. And then the second time I read it, I understood what I was reading a bit better. It is really charming, and I think that I believe that, yes, I'm positive Jolene at Bookworm Adventure spoke about this not too long ago. She was doing something different, and but this has been on my mind to bring to you for some while now. The movie is really charming as well, and yeah, I think just charming. All right, A Month in the Country. I talked about somewhere not too far. I was this year. I'm pretty sure I spoke about it. And it is by J.L. Carr, and it is a very short, 135 pages, and it's, I think that J.L. Carr is more on the side of poetry, and what he's done has written about a summer that he has spent, it's sort of a whole summer. He says it's just a month, but as you're reading it, time kind of is a bit slippy. So I feel like he was there for longer. And he's been tasked with restoring a plaster image in a church that is quite an old church, and they're pretty sure that there is something behind the existing plaster. So he's been asked to take off that first layer and reveal what's behind. And as he's encountering people in the community, he's starting to understand the story that he is revealing. As well, he's dealing with, he's just come back from World War I, and he's dealing with his marriage having broken up. And there's another man in the vicinity who is an archaeologist who is tasked with finding a grave. But this fellow has a second agenda. So he's pretty sure right off the bat what he's supposed to be doing and where, and he's got a good sense of what the situation is, but he has his own personal agenda from an archaeological point of view. And so these two men become friends and just kind of help each other along in their moment of a crippled journey, I guess. And so do the people in the town. They just don't understand what either man has been going through, and so they just treat them as if there is no background problem at all. And so this helps in the healing process. It's really beautifully written. As I say, I found the time was a bit slippy for me. I wasn't sure whether a day had passed or a week had passed, and then something would be said, and I think, is that all that happened in just 2 days? So, yeah, that was the only part that I found was a little bit odd. Food is a big part of this story, and their food is delivered to them. I think the village people, if they bring food to the church where he's working, they can see what's happening. They're invited out to picnics and to dinners or lunches and so on. So food is one of the means by which people communicate and create community. So, yeah, totally love it, and I would recommend this over and over again. If you're looking for a short book, perfect. If you're looking for a book that's poetically written, perfect. If you're looking for a book that is like an interior monologue in a way, but has to connect with the outer world, perfect. Like this ticks a lot of boxes. And also, if you're in a book club and you're looking for something short and you're looking for something that's like a palate cleanser because you read something and you think, oh my God, the world, this is a perfect in-between book for book clubs. I think also if you're, in high school or you have children in high school around you or something, this would also make a great book that wouldn't be on most curriculums if you wanted to be writing an interesting essay about it. Or the author. I think the author was quite an interesting guy too. Completely opposite in terms of method of presenting information. There is the Guernsey Literary and Peel Pie Society, which so many people will have bumped into ages ago. While I'm talking, I'll look up when it was published. It's by Marianne Schaefer and Annie Barrows, and part of the charm of this book is that the two authors were writing it through correspondence. It takes place on the island of Guernsey and the Channel Islands during World War II, and there is the occupation of the Germans on this particular island. And England and the Guernsey Islands communications become severed. There's another story somewhere in the world about how England just didn't want to pay attention to what was happening on the Guernsey Islands. They had their hands filled with other things, and it was just like, you do you, good luck. So this was published initially in 2008, and there has been a movie that was really well done. I think that the book and the movie are really good. The one reflects the other quite well. But I think in the movie, the ending stuck in my head better. This is about a group of people. Sorry, excuse me. It's an exchange of letters between a stranger who is the founding member of the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. And this is how the story of the German occupation takes place, these letters being exchanged. And we get to see what the Guernsey Islanders are experiencing and how they manage to continue as a community under the strict rules and observations of the Germans, how there's some resistance taking place, and also just things like how do they maintain food when the Germans want their food. So there's like, how do you hide the food? And of course the boats have all been scuppered because the Germans don't want anyone taking off, or so that's the only means of communication with the outer world is either through radio, airplanes, or the boats. So they are very isolated. I really enjoyed this. To me, it's a book that I can definitely come back to. However, I've just done it recently, so probably I'll tuck this away and maybe read it again in about 5 years or something like that. I think it's a great winter book, and one of the reasons I say that is because it's kind of episodic, and I find that like reading it curled up with a blanket and a cup of cocoa or something like that. It's just, and then when the cocoa's cold, you can put it down because the letters create stops in the reading that allow for the reader to not say, I'm in the middle of an action point. The letters bring it to a nice ending, so you can have these ending points that do not feel disruptive. There's something I really hate when I'm in the middle of a good story and for some reason I have to put the book down, and I'm like, I'm in the best part of the book. Don't make me stop. Okay, I also recently spoke about The Blue Castle by Lucy Maud Montgomery. This is probably one of the books I've read that's stuck in my head. The longest. You get some books that just really stick in your head, and I read this ages ago, and it parts of it really stuck in my head forever. So then when I reread it, I thought, oh yeah, I wasn't imagining it, because sometimes I think that the stuff that sticks in my head, are those my imagination? Is that a movie? Is that a book I read? Is that a story someone told me? I get a lot of people telling me life stories, and I was in a situation the other day where it was a person who I didn't know too well, but she was telling me something, and I said, "Are you the person whose sister lives in Alaska?" No. So I'm never 100% sure of the source of my memories. What we have here is Valancy Sterling, and she belongs to the Sterling family. She has a really overbearing mother and aunt, or grandmother, and they just squelch her and squelch her. All she's good for is the housework and the cooking, and for them to have they're kind of like cats with a fly that they're just, batting around. And every time she rises up a little bit, they've got that sort of passive aggressive way of just bringing her back down. She's got other family members who are not like that, but they are not taking the time to, or the effort, or the interest to help Valancy rise above what they are doing. They recognize what's happening, but it's like, yeah, too bad for her. So Valancy gets a medical diagnosis that makes her think her life is going to be limited, and what is she going to do with the remainder of her life. She's still a fairly young woman, and she's like, I'm just going to take a leap of faith, and I am just going to approach someone who's not considered the cream of the crop as far as the local community goes, but he's a bit of an adventurer. He's a bit of a rogue. He's like, maybe he will accept me and let me have a year of pleasant existence. So she approaches him and proposes marriage. And things just go from there. It's a romantic story in some regards. It's not like today's romance where everything just crashes in and, oh yeah, love, love, love. No, it's more mature than that. And we've also got a lot of comedic moments. There's especially at dinner times when the whole family gets together and offers their opinions back and forth, like a multi-person ping pong game. I love those kinds of settings, where you've got a whole bunch of people around a table and they've all got an opinion and they're like quick with it. So we've got a couple of those sorts of sceneries. And Valancy eventually finds herself. So it's a story of personal growth, and also a tiny little bit of vengeance is sweet. Like, she's not setting out to get vengeance on her mom and her mother, aunt or grandmother, whatever it was. But there is that just little, that little chuckle in the bathroom. So, what have I got next? Somerset Maugham. I never know how to say his name. Maugham. The Painted Veil. I'm glad I pulled this out because I keep thinking this book was so well done, and it was also one of those books that I had read ages back and thought to myself, like, there were fragments in my brain. And I did see it as a movie, and that is, I'm so glad I brought this out. I meant to pull this up, see if I could find the movie and rewatch it. So we have got Kitty, who is extremely immature, and she is proposed to and has to set off to China with her husband, who is a medical professional. He's no saint, but he's also a deeply... I don't mean he goes out and he does evil things, but he's just not a very good husband. He really doesn't understand relationships, and he certainly doesn't understand partnership. And so the two of them just are a colossal disaster as far as marriage goes. And Kitty, with her extreme immaturity, really makes it much worse. So in China, she makes a couple of really bad choices. He makes a couple of bad choices, but they're not so apparent because he's mostly just detaching himself. But something happens, and he has an about face, and he takes Kitty up into the mountain areas of China where, is it typhoid? Cholera. Cholera has broken out. So if she stayed in the house where he had settled her and himself, she would have been safe. But she is bored. So she goes into where the cholera epidemic is. And things transpire. Someone gets sick, someone has illumination, or maybe both people have illumination, or maybe there's more than two people who have illumination. And so there's just a very nice cast of characters who are in sort of supporting each other. I don't know how much they actually mean to support each other, but as, like, if I'm watching the husband as the wife, I'm starting to notice what they're actually doing. I'm paying attention, and I'm starting to build some sympathy, and I'm starting to build some understanding, and that gets reciprocated. So, there's a much healthier set of relationships around, but that doesn't mean that disaster doesn't happen. It's on the crush your soul side of things. There's sadness in here, but there's also just good redemption. I didn't love the ending. I thought the ending was a bit, what shall I say? I think it's tidied up in such a way that it made the author and the men in the publishing world happy. I don't think a lot of women would have been impressed with this ending at the time that it was written. I think that they would have thought, oh, it was written in 1925. I think a lot of women would have thought, oh, she's figured out maturity and independence and a few other things, and why did she make that choice? So, if there was to be a scale of crushing your heart, it's more closer to, there will be some sadness in this book. But it's so beautifully written. Okay, very recently, I think in the summer, I talked about this book, and what I really want to talk about but don't have in the house is The Guncle by Stephen Rowley. I preferred The Guncle, although this is a good follow-up. If you've read The Guncle, you can go for this. But The Guncle, I thought, was a better story. So let's just do that. And so the uncle is in the first book. He is asked to look after his niece and nephew, and he's a fairly self-centered actor, and he doesn't want this responsibility. But his brother asks him. His brother has lost his wife, the parents of the two children, to cancer. But he, in his way of coping with it, he had to always be staying awake and present. He ended up on amphetamines, I guess. Those are the uppers. So he's become addicted to whatever the product was that he was using to survive during her illness. And he has recognized this and has signed himself into a rehab, but he needs the kids to be looked after. So that's what the uncle does. The kids are quite young. They have that innocence of asking questions that are really penetrating, and the adults mostly are just hoping those questions would go away. But he takes the time. Patrick is the uncle's name, and he takes the time to figure out answers, and he treats them with respect, and he helps them through their grief, and helps them to come to terms with what they feel is their dad abandoning them. It feels like that, but that's not what it actually is he's actually looking after the kids. So yeah, I think that was a really good one. This one's okay, but it's more about Patrick as opposed to the kids, and Patrick is a flawed character who, I'm not sure he unflaws himself by the end of the book. David Balducci, I think I'm bringing him to you more as an author than of this particular book. Wish You Well, I saw originally as a movie, and so pulled out the book to see whether it scanned the same as the movie. Sorry. And it does. It does. The movie was very close to what happened in this book. And what is it about? Right. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Now I remember. Okay, there's a car accident, dad dies, mom is traumatized. The two kids are effectively orphaned because mom is just catatonic with grief. And so the three of them are transported to the grandma, who is in, where do they go? The Virginia, the mountains of Virginia. And so grandma and the kids and this very emotionally damaged mom have to figure out how to come together. The daughter, the oldest girl, is very angry. The little guy is just happy to be with people who are looking after him. And he believes in his mom's recovery. And it's a bucolic story. The setting is really nice. The surrounding characters are quite interesting. There's hope all through the story. Although we start off from a premise of sadness, we are gradually building to some trauma, but we know that there's going to be a good ending. And I think that's true of most of his books. I think Gina Steiner over is her channel called Gina Reads? I'm not positive. She I'm pretty sure loves this guy. And if you're interested in more information about cozy books or books that don't crush your soul, Gina's the place to go. And one of the reasons I got the new computer is that this computer's capacity for copying and pasting and all that kind of jazz is really reduced. So I'll get the information and probably put it in as a little doodad here, because I can't link it down below. It will just upset the computer so badly. It'll faint for 2 days. And the last one I'm talking to you about is also one I've recently commented on, is the Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. And we have got here the beginnings of the creation of the Oxford Dictionary, and there is a group of men who are working on this, and one of those men has a young daughter. His wife has died, and so he brings this basically baby to work. And that's okay, so long as she's quiet and she plays under the table. And she grows, and she's surrounded by all these magical, intense words and discussions about, would this word mean that, or would that word mean so? And she's very familiar with the workings of how the dictionary is being brought to life. And as she grows into this, she is just a natural at it. And so she starts to help, and she helps with sort of the least offensive jobs, in terms of if she screws it up, it's not a disaster. So it was published in 2020, but when does it take place? It's in the early 20th century, and there's also a women's suffragist piece that takes place. It's a nice complex plot. If you like words and if you like definitions, it's a fun place to be. And if you like historical fiction, it's very well crafted. And if you like a fairly strong female character, in the sense that she's growing, she's maturing into her, she's not like a superwoman to start with. She develops into a very good, solid lady. And there's also a little bit of romance, but again, it's not that crazy, oh my God, I see you, take your pants off kind of romance. So I strongly recommend it. Now, I am pretty sure that I looked up what else Pip Williams had written, and I think at this time I wasn't that interested in whatever she had written next. I cannot remember what the second book was, but for whatever reason, I think that she's on hold as far as author goes. I think I'm just waiting for the next book. Okay, that's it. That's it for me. I hope some of these books charm you as much as they charmed me, and I will start to collect another bunch for February so that I can get back on track. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and I will see you next week, maybe with a new video device. I should learn the proper terms, right? That would be a camera on an iPad, on a tripod. Bye-bye.